Good morning and welcome to the WSJM Morning Show. I'm Ken Lundberg. It's Thursday, January 30th, and here I'm putting all the switches on. Everything else. Ken Ankli is here in the studio.
Good morning.
I've been excited about this. This has been long in coming because you're a good storyteller.
Well, we'll see.
Make friends with the microphone there. The first question he asked me was, is the coffee good? The second question he asked me is, do I have to put anything on? No, you don't have to put the headphones on. The only if people want to hear the sound bites, the sound that I play while I'm doing the news, which I'll do here in a couple of minutes, then you can wear the headphones. Otherwise, don't worry about it.
Okay.
Yeah. How are you this morning, sir?
Good. A little sleepy. It's a little earlier than I'm accustomed to getting up these days.
What's your normal wake up time?
Oh, coffee starts about 7 and
Okay. Just a nice ease into the
very
day.
much so. My wife and I have kind of a morning routine. We read the news, do some crossword puzzles.
Yeah. Yeah. So in recent, I feel like it's probably not true, but in my recent years, I feel like the crossword puzzle still outstanding. Love the crossword puzzles.
I'm not very good at it.
Really?
Yeah, my wife is the she'll do
Well, she's a writer.
80%.
She's the smarter one of you two.
No question about it.
But so she do them in pen? Does she do the crosswords in pen?
They're all electronic these days.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. That's fine.
You get instant gratification,
Yeah.
whether you're right or you're wrong.
The only thing I don't like about the online crossword puzzles is I'm too tempted for the error check.
Oh, totally.
And it says, "Oh, that's not right." Well, darn it.
Oh, we're not above Googling the answer or whatever.
Do you do the New York Times app ones?
Yes.
Okay. Do you do like Wordle and
She does, I don't.
Okay. We did the Wordle stuff every day. Stephanie and I did, and for a long time we were just very, very competitive, and I think it was harming the relationship, so we stopped.
Right.
So, all right, we're going to talk with Ken Ankli. I've been making up titles for you. I call you area historian,
okay,
philanthropist, entrepreneur. How would you like to be referred to this morning, sir?
I don't know, just a
community member,
cheerleader, I guess.
Cheerleader for
community
cheerleader.
Benton Harbor for the Arts District.
Excellent. Okay, we'll talk. And the Berrien, I saw here the Berrien County Historical Association Board has named you the Benton Harbor Frank J. Ward History Hero. Is that right?
That was just one annual award a couple of years back.
Oh, okay, but that's still really cool.
Yeah,
2021. But I mean, so you're an award winner for history. We're going to get into this. It's going to be good. All right, 7:04. The WSJM Morning Show continues. We have news coming up in just a moment, and we'll cover our local news, and then we'll get into this interview. If you have any questions, especially about Benton Harbor area history, how far out do you encompass, like, kind of your historical knowledge, would you say?
Oh, I would limit it to downtown Benton Harbor.
Okay, yeah. Downtown Benton Harbor. So if you have questions outside of Benton Harbor, you can ask them, and we'll see if we know. So, all right, that's coming up in just a moment right here on WSJM.
I'm Sherry Preston, ABC News.
Offer not valid in all states or where prohibited by law. Loans are subject to lender approval. See website for details.
Honey, the credit card bill came, and we're maxed out.
Maxed out cards, rent is due. We just need some extra cash to help us get by.
Maybe we should go to 27cash.com.
With our bad credit?
27cash.com is one of the largest personal loan networks. They can help people with any type of credit get up to $5,000, and cash can hit our bank account as soon as tomorrow.
When you need extra cash, go to 27cash.com. That's 27cash.com. 27cash.com.
WSJM News Now. Team coverage from the WSJM Newsroom on News Talk Sports 94.9 WSJM.
Good morning and welcome back to the WSJM Morning Show. I'm Ken Lundberg. My guest this morning is already here in the studio, Ken Ankli. We've decided that we're gonna refer to him this morning as Benton Harbor area cheerleader, because he's got a lot to talk about, and he's a wealth of knowledge as far as Benton Harbor's history. And Benton Harbor, especially, I think, in that arts district, I was really impressed by kind of how you were able to paint a vision paint a picture of what has been And then just walking through that area, you can see what the potential is and what's happening there right now is really exciting. So we'll talk a little bit about that with Ken Ankli in just a few moments here on the WSJM Morning Show. If you want, you can keep listening here. You'll hear good portions of the interview. If you want unfiltered access to this, you can just tune in right now on our video live stream. It's on Facebook. It's on YouTube as well. Just type in WSJM. You can watch it there or just save it to watch for later. 7:06, we've got news coming up in just a moment. The weather forecast for today. Again, we talked about it. Morning sunshine today, then increasing clouds. A high today around 48 degrees. You're going to want to open the windows for a few minutes anyway, clean out the air in the house. Gusty winds are going to continue out of the south today, up to 25 miles per hour. Tonight's forecast, cloudy skies, rain showers moving in. Low overnight of around 35 degrees. Friday's forecast, more rain, cloudy skies, a high around 38, so not as warm tomorrow. East winds 5 to 10 miles per hour. Forecast into the weekend, nothing exciting on Saturday, partly cloudy skies, a high around 38. Sunday is going to be a little bit cloudy again with maybe a chance of rain or even snow. But the temperature is going to warm back up. It's going to go from a low of 30 all the way up to a high of 50 degrees. Some of the news that we're following in the WSJM newsroom. The Berrien County Road Department has scheduled a public meeting for next month on a project plan for Red Arrow Highway in Chickaming Township this year. Department Communications Coordinator Audrey Boone tells us they'll be working on the road between Berrien Street and Lakeshore Road starting in the springtime.
So it actually started in the fall. Red Arrow Highway there between Berrien Street and Lakeshore Road. We did some joint repairs. That project is going to resume here in the spring.
Boone says the work resuming around March will include the resurfacing of the road, culvert replacements, the construction of a roadside trail, and a lane reconfiguration.
There will be less lanes. It is going to be a little bit different than some of the other segments that we've done. So it would be a great opportunity if anyone wants to see what that's going to look like or to discuss those locations a little bit further to join us at that public meeting.
Boone says everyone is welcome to attend the meeting. It'll happen on February 20th. It'll be held at the Chickaming Township Hall from 6 to 7 p.m. One thing that will be discussed will be necessary road closures when some of the culverts are replaced. Taking a look up north, 3 buildings destroyed. No one is hurt after a fire early Wednesday in Van Buren County's Geneva Township. South Haven Area Emergency Services says it was called out to a property on County Road 687 near 63rd Street at around 6:05 a.m. That's when neighbors reported hearing a huge explosion and then seeing a fire. A barn, a greenhouse, and a third storage building were all ablaze when firefighters arrived. Heat from the fire was threatening a nearby home. That was quickly controlled. Shays managed to knock down the fire, but water needed to be trucked in from tankers about a mile away. The cause of the fire remains under investigation. South Haven, the annual Icebreaker Festival returns this weekend. South Haven Area Chamber of Commerce Assistant Director Olivia Thompson telling us there will be plenty of fun for the entire family, including ice sculptures, arts and crafts, and chili, and other fun outdoor activities.
States with firearm storage requirements, like ours, have lower levels.
All right, that's not the right soundbite. I was getting fancy there. I thought it was going to be a good one. Okay, chili, other fun outdoor activities. Let's try that again.
It's estimated that over 150.
We want everybody to come and have a good time. It's a great place for families. Everyone from all ages, all walks of life can come and have fun. Most things such as the snowsuit fashion competition, the horse-drawn wagon rides, the silent disco, those are all free for everybody.
The free event will take place all throughout downtown South Haven starting Friday, tomorrow. The big events such as the chili cook-off, the horse-drawn wagon rides, and frozen fish fling will take place on Saturday. The frozen fish fling. You ever flung a frozen fish, Ken?
No, I have not. I don't think I will.
I mean, do you wear gloves for that kind of thing? Because, I mean, those fins can be sharp, especially when they're frozen. More information on how to get maps can be found through a link at our website, WSJM.com. And finally, one additional news item. We heard from Area Congressman Tim Walberg this week. He says it's time for federal workers to get back to the office. He sent a letter to the U.S. Department of Labor Acting Secretary Vince McConey urging that all department staff return to work in person. He says, 5 years since COVID shut down the nation, Walberg says it's time to get back to normal. I guess so. Yeah, go back to work. Yeah, whatever. All right, 7:10. It's the WSJM Morning Show. We've got more news coming up after a check of sports. Dave Wolf is back, after being a little bit under the weather for a couple of days. So we'll have that right now. And also we'll start our interview with Ken Ankli, area historian. Benton Harbor has a lot of rich history, as many people know, and we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about Ken, some of the things that are happening past, present, and future in Benton Harbor. It's happening right now on the WSJM Morning Show video live stream. Tune over there right now.
In the NBA from...
Okay. There's that. I think we're set. Good morning.
Good morning.
How's the coffee?
Good. Thank you.
You're welcome. Absolutely. It's Hanson Beverage supplies our coffee. I can give them a plug.
No complaints.
Very good. Ken Ankli is here. I've been calling you a Benton Harbor historian, but I mean you wear a lot of different hats. And so what I'm hoping this morning is that we can introduce you, let you introduce yourself to people who may not have had the pleasure yet of knowing you. And so what I ask all my superhero guests to do is to give us your origin story. So why don't we start at the beginning for those who don't know you?
So I'm a 5th generation Southwest Michigan resident.
Yeah.
Went to school at St. Joe High. Our family's business was Bramall Supply, located on Water Street in Benton Harbor, and just followed my father's footsteps into that business after college, and never looked back.
For those who don't know, the Bramall Supply, what did it supply?
So Bramall Supply was Benton Harbor's oldest business, founded in 1873 by a man named Edward Bramall. He was a tinsmith by trade.
Okay.
And came to Benton Harbor from Chicago, founded the business in 1873. He built the business in plumbing and heating originally, as homes converted from wood burning heat to boilers and hot water heat. He built his business around the plumbing trade.
Oh.
And it gradually evolved into industrial supplies, and eventually cutting tools and abrasives. But
Okay. So that's what a tinsmith was or is. I could Google this stuff, but it's more fun here.
At the time when he was a young man as a tinsmith, he would focus on like tin lining of an ice box. Prior to electric refrigeration, you would have an ice box which would be lined with zinc or tin. And he was reputed to have called on President Lincoln's widow, Mary Todd Lincoln, and serviced her icebox when she lived in Chicago after the assassination.
You're kidding.
Yeah.
So we've got that piece of history as well. So he helped keep things cold by lining freezers or ice boxes with
tin and zinc. Yeah.
Wow. Mary Todd Lincoln. That's pretty cool. How did you get that nugget of knowledge?
Well, it's just part of the corporate lore. It was he also lived to be a very old man.
Okay.
So he lived into the 1940s. So he saw the Civil War, World War I, World War II. He had quite a lifetime.
Wow. So you got involved with the family business. What was your role when you were there?
Well, I started after high school, after school, sweeping floors. In those days, we were still heavily into plumbing, pipe valves and fittings, and we had a pipe machine which would cut and thread pipe for use in industry generally. But I would spend most of my time on the pipe machine.
Did you find it rewarding work?
Oh, when you're that age, any kind of work is kind of fun.
Yeah. I wonder if the machines have changed much. I mean, you think about pipes and pipe threading. I don't know.
Those machines probably are still in service.
Yeah.
They're just built like a tank.
Yeah.
My recollection is when we finally got out of the pipe business, we sold it to a couple of our customers who would be able to make use of those machines. So they were still functioning.
Yeah. How long did your family operate that supply company?
So my great uncle, he acquired the business in 1940.
Okay.
So there were a couple of prior owners of the business. There was Edward Bramall, then a guy named Wallace Nichols, and then my great uncle,
Okay.
Howard.
Okay.
My dad then succeeded my great uncle, in the early 60s, and then I followed it. My father.
And then when did you decide this is it? I'm going to change.
Well, it took a long time. My dad died in 99, and the business was very strong at that time, and we had some great years after that. But gradually, from about 2010 on, it just became apparent that it was time.
Yeah.
It was still a solid business. There were other competitors that were acquiring smaller businesses such as ourselves, so there was an opportunity to sell. Our customers would probably benefit by having larger, more technologically savvy resources. So I think in the long run, it was good for everyone.
Yeah. Yeah. And the building is still there today.
Correct. We sold the business in 2017, but retained ownership of the building and have redeveloped that building really over almost 20 years.
Yeah.
So
Talk about some of that redevelopment, if you wouldn't mind. So for people who don't know where the Bramall Supply Company building is, it's right down in the heart of the Benton Harbor Arts District. If it's a stone's throw away from the glass blowing place.
correct. We're between the Water Street Glass and the Mason Jar Cafe.
Yeah.
It's the large red building with a magnificent historical mural on the front.
It's a really nice mural, by the way. I like
dates
that.
to 2005.
Okay.
And in 2005, that was the same year that the Livery Brew Pub opened.
Yeah.
We put the mural on the building. Things were kind of starting to rock and roll down in that neighborhood. Water Street Glass opened in 2004. So that was an exciting event to have some action down there. A lot of these buildings had been dormant, decaying.
Yeah.
It was kind of a rough neighborhood. So when things start to gain traction, everybody kind of joins arms, and it's kind of a cause of celebration.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm gonna hop around a little bit because some of the things you say, there's so much history and depth to them. I want to explore it a little bit for the listener here, and part of that is okay. So when in 1940, when Bramall Supply Company is there, look across the street. What's there?
Oh, there were commercial buildings across the street.
Yeah.
There was a dental laboratory. There was a barber shop, Sarge's Barber Shop. There was the remnants of a filling station. Of course, the Vincent Hotel was going strong. That was a very popular hotel. In fact, when I started in the early 70s, the Vincent was still operating as a hotel.
Yeah.
Salesmen that would call on our business would stay at the Vincent Hotel. They had a great bar upstairs, from what I understand.
Yeah.
So things were still moving.
Yeah. How did so there are hotels in the area. I mean, describe it. What kind of district was it?
It was tired.
Yeah.
We generally speaking, people in the industrial supply business locate as close to the industries that they serve as they can.
Yes.
So we were no different. We were across the railroad tracks from Benton Harbor, Malibu, Superior Steel, Auto Specialties, Ball Rubber, Whirlpool, of course. So all of these rather heavy industry entities, and it was kind of an older, mature neighborhood.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then as those industries kind of fell by the wayside, the neighborhood that we were in kind of got neglected and slowly deteriorated.
Yeah.
Of course, we didn't have walk-in trade. We weren't dependent on physical retail.
Right.
We took all of our product to the customers so we could stay put and, ride things out.
Yeah. Pedestrian traffic then or now, like let's say 1970s to now.
There was zero pedestrian traffic in, 70s there might have been a little bit. By the 1980s, there was nothing, literally nothing. When we left at night at 5 o'clock, we had to look over both shoulders to make sure the coast was clear.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and so how it's changed since then.
Yeah.
So
I mean, you got kids in the dance program or the music program or the glass program.
Yeah.
Visiting the restaurants, playing in the park across the street.
Yeah. So what happened after you said in the 1980s it was still pretty rough? How did that transformation start, and when did you first start seeing it?
Well, it was gradual. I think there was a period of recognition that things were in need of change, but to get things moving, that was a challenge. I think they started by demolishing some of the buildings that had been vacant and decaying for a number of time. Where City Center Park is right now, that was all those were all buildings there. So that was kind of a blanket approach to clearing an area and starting from scratch. Unfortunately, we lost some buildings that probably could have been saved because there's an awful lot of gaps in the smile, so to speak, down there.
Yeah. Yeah. How did that transpire? So even if there are buildings that are still usable, they got the wrecking ball.
Yes.
And I mean, so what was the neighborhood feeling at that point?
Well, I mean, having the blight removed was welcome.
Yeah.
Even though it was kind of painful, it was better to have a fresh, green, open space than to have one that's an eyesore.
Yeah. Yeah. So the shadows and who knows what would be happening inside some of these vacant buildings if no one's there to watch.
Exactly.
That kind of stuff. We're talking with Ken Ankli. We're going to call him area historian this morning for Benton Harbor. And you've been recognized for your knowledge and for your philanthropy as well. So we'll talk about that this hour. And we'll be back with more of the radio program in a few minutes. But we paused. You've got... we talked a little bit about your wife and how she likes to do crossword puzzles. That's not the only writing she does.
That's correct.
Maybe we talk about her a little bit before we get too far down the road in Benton Harbor.
Well, my wife, her name is Ann Miller. She kept her own name, and she is a long time and very avid fly fisherman.
Yeah.
And also a scientist. She was a biologist by education. And she has parlayed her interest in fly fishing into researching and writing about the insects that are portrayed with an artificial fly in the fly fishing sport. So she has written hatch guides and is kind of an expert. And
that is so cool.
Yeah.
So a scientist who has decided to unmask the secrets behind why fly fishing works.
Well, people are drawn to the sport of fly fishing because it's kind of a cool thing.
Yeah.
They put flies on their line, but they don't necessarily know what the fly is mimicking.
Yeah.
And if you don't know what's going on in the stream in terms of the insects that are either in the water, subsurface, or those that are emerging, you can put on flies all day long, and if it's not the fly that's emerging, you're not going to catch any fish.
Oh boy! So she might get mad at you if you don't know the answer to this question. Is she a wet fly or dry fly?
Both.
Both. Okay.
Oh, yeah, she as long as it's a fly.
Okay.
No worms.
No worms. No, there's a part of the community that I think it's either you're dry fly or you're both. Whatever the fly is.
She would prefer dry flies, I'm sure.
Okay. Okay. It's a lot of fun to fly fish. Does she fly fish much around this area, or does she have to go a distance?
The Dowagiac River, Dowagiac Creek is a good stream that she will fish.
Which pockets? Which mile marker? No, I'm just kidding. So the Dowagiac, I'm sure she heads up north.
And we have a place up north, so she fishes the Manistee, the Muskegon, Osable.
Yeah.
Lots of spots.
That's fun. So she has books out. How many?
Two books. It's a hatch guide. The original was published in, I don't know, 2010 or so, and it went out of print. And she, within the last couple of years, revised it and added some additional sections and republished.
We should probably have her in at some point.
She would love it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that'd be great.
All right. We'll schedule that. Maybe you can connect us with her. All right. So let's get back to Benton Harbor for just a moment. We've got a couple of minutes here before we get to the Bloomberg Market Minute. But so 1980s rough neighborhood. Some of the blight is removed. Okay, now you have gaps in the smile, as you mentioned. What's next? What happens once the buildings are removed and you get some open space?
Well, there was a program that was begun by the Cornerstone Alliance, and it was known as Community Renewal Through the Arts.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea was to attract artists to the neighborhood.
Yes.
Artists who are accustomed to living frugally, low rent, nothing fancy. They're able to work on their craft and their art. And in so doing, the artists attract outsiders, patrons of the art, so to speak. And eventually you create a neighborhood and a brotherhood and kind of a nucleus around which the neighborhood can develop.
How has that vision been realized?
Well, I think it's been successful. It's just it's glacial. It's slow to move. Everybody wants it to move faster. Velocity is lacking.
Yeah.
But over the last 25 years, I mean, we went from nothing to a pretty neat little neighborhood.
Yeah.
So.
No, I like the way you describe that. It's slow, but it's forward. I mean, because you haven't really seen any regression, have you?
Well, there are losses along the way. I mean, there are people who are attracted to the area that think that a yoga studio is going to work, and maybe it would work, but the timing might not be quite right. So there's a few stops and starts. We had a great restaurant there in the Ideal Place, which was one of the early.
Love that place.
It was one of the early venues that really attracted people back to Benton Harbor.
Yeah.
Because it was a urban bistro. It was across the river. It was a little bit mysterious. It was a little bit dangerous.
Yeah.
So when you went there, it was kind of an adventure.
Yeah.
And they had a great business, a great bar. So the loss of the Ideal it's still something that people talk about.
Yeah, the Ideal Place, and I think the library was there as well, right?
The library which is now the Brick House.
Yes.
And prior to the library, it was called Paulie's. So
Okay.
Paulie's and the Ideal Place were both operating at the same time. So if you wanted upscale, you went to the Ideal. If you wanted a burger, you went to the Paulie's.
All right, we've got to. We're going to get the Bloomberg Market Minute, and we're talking with Ken Ankli this morning to talk about Benton Harbor, the history of what's happening down there. We'll talk about the Ghost Light Theater. That's a building that you used to own, that is now owned completely and wholly by the Ghost Light, thanks in large part to what your generosity. So we'll talk about that in a couple of moments and a few other things right here on the WSJM Morning Show. Also, we'll talk about I don't know if you read it in the Moody on the Market story, but there's a development going on north of your area too. So there's Modern Plastics, and then there's the old what's the building? Starts with a T. Right across from the livery.
Oh, Thayer.
Yes. Yeah.
Yep.
So I don't know if you know that's going on.
Well, I know about it in general. I don't know any specifics.
Okay, so we'll talk about that and more coming up in a few minutes at 7:30 right here on the WSJM Morning Show.
The Morning Show with Ken and Friends on 94.9 WSJM.
7:30 is the time. It's the WSJM Morning Show. Thayer Building. I knew it was something like that. Thayer. I don't know why I wanted to put an R in it. Probably because Bramall and everything.
Thayer was in the janitorial supplies.
Okay.
So, and that building is quite historic also. That goes back to the early part of the century. It was once the home of a manufacturing company called F.P. Rossback.
Oh.
And Rossback moved I'm not sure. Probably during the 70s over to St. Joe off Hawthorne.
Okay, we're talking with Ken Ankli about Benton Harbor history, and he and his family have been in that area for a very long time. So we'll continue that interview. We've been talking to him on the video live stream. We'll continue that here on the radio in a few minutes and on the live stream as well. We've got to get some news in. We have the latest news coming in from ABC in just a moment. Also, the weather forecast for today. We're supposed to get sunshine today. Sunshine and then increasing clouds. The high today is going to be around 48 degrees. Some areas are probably going to get up to maybe 50. I mean, it's just going to be a nice day up until the clouds come in. And then with the clouds tonight, we're supposed to get maybe some potential rainfall. And we're going to carry that rainfall over into tomorrow's forecast as well. Tonight, cloudy skies, chance of rain showers. Low around 35 degrees, southeast winds 5 to 10 miles per hour. And then tomorrow's forecast, we're looking at cloudy skies, an 80% chance of, they're calling it a rain-snow mix. So maybe it'll happen where it starts out as snow and then come down as rain. But the high tomorrow is supposed to be around 38 degrees. East winds 5 to 10 miles per hour. The extended forecast, Saturday looks partly cloudy. We're going to get a high around 38 degrees, and then we're going to introduce another chance of rain. That's going to be coming in on Sunday, but it's only a 20% chance of rain on Sunday. But the high is going to be, again, warm. 50 degrees is predicted for Sunday with a low overnight of around 30 degrees. All right, nothing major in the precipitation way as we start the next week as well. It looks just partly cloudy on Monday and Tuesday, and then another chance of rain showers on Wednesday. We've got the latest from ABC News and then our local news coming up next.
This is a special report from ABC News. I'm Sherry Preston. A source tells ABC that the Potomac River in Washington, D.C. right now is a gruesome scene with a large number of bodies recovered from the water following last night's mid-air collision between an Army Black Hawk helicopter and an American Airlines regional jet.
American Eagle Flight 5342 originated in Wichita 2.5 hours before the crash. It was newly introduced service.
We just celebrated 1 year of that direct flight.
Lily Wu is the mayor of Wichita.
This is truly devastating, something we never expected.
The plane, a Canadair regional jet, is thought to have had 64 people, including 4 crew members on board. Jim Ryan, ABC News.
The NTSB is on the scene. Tom Howder is a former investigator.
Early on like this, there's a lot of rumor, a lot of people out there saying things. We need more facts, and now we don't have right yet.
A news conference being held this morning in Washington. This is ABC News.
WSJM News Now. Team coverage from the WSJM Newsroom on News Talk Sports 94.9 WSJM.
The WSJM Morning Show continues. Good morning. I'm Ken Lundberg. It's 7:33. We'll continue our interview with Ken Ankli in just a few moments. He is very knowledgeable about a lot of the history that has happened in Benton Harbor. So we'll continue that discussion in just a moment on our video live stream, and then we'll come back here on the radio as well. We'll talk about Ghostlight Theater. We'll talk about some of the developments that are happening down in the Benton Harbor area and more. Some of the news that we're covering that will bring you at 8 o'clock this morning: a 6-month investigation stretching across Southwest Michigan has led to one arrest of a Benton Harbor man for charges of possessing crack cocaine, drug distribution, and illegally obtained firearms. That happened earlier this month. He was just arraigned this week, so we'll tell you a little bit more about that individual. Also, organizations that depend on federal grants are breathing a sigh of relief right now that the Trump administration has rescinded a freeze on all such grants for review. The announcement of the freeze late Monday sparked a lot of speculation nationwide, including locally, on exactly what it would mean. We talked with the Berrien County Health Department to figure out what they're thinking right now about that. And then we'll also update a story that WSJM first told you about last week. We broke the news about the Benton Harbor area school officials getting removed, a vote to remove them from the Lakeland Athletics Conference. Since then, they've been trying to see how they can appeal the decision. Today, they're going to meet with directors of the Lakeland Athletics Conference to see if they can find a path forward on how Benton Harbor schools might appeal the decision that will otherwise remove them from the athletic conference next school year. So we'll talk about that and more coming up at 8 o'clock this morning. All right, we've got the latest sports from Dave Wolf, and then we'll have more of our conversation with Ken Ankli. That's coming up in just a moment here on the WSJM Morning Show. First, a look at state news.
The Michigan News Network.
Yeah, the story about the Benton Harbor area schools, we our reporter Sean Robinson was talking with the athletic director about that last week, and so we brought the news forward that the Lakeland Conference had taken a vote in early January to remove Benton Harbor.
I read.
Yeah, from the and we were actually contacted by some of the other schools in the Lakeland Conference, and they say, "How in the world did you get that information?" We didn't know it was going to be public yet. It's like, well, you took a vote, you voted to remove them starting with the next school year. We got to talk about it.
I mean, I can see the argument. I mean, they have football, they have basketball, track, and that's about it. I mean, the depth of their program is so shallow.
That's the big problem. The big problem is that they are barely able to field teams. When they do field teams, they sometimes they won't show up for games, and that becomes a problem when you're trying to keep your get a record, a win-loss record that could put you in the playoffs or not. And so the athletic director has said, we need to take a breath here and figure out how can we get more people interested in participating in athletics. How can we build these programs? What do we need to do to build these programs and go forward with that? But after the story, after we broke the story, that's when the Benton Harbor School Board said, "Hey, wait a second! Don't take stuff away. This is our spirit," and they've done that before, right? So we'll see what happens with that meeting later today. But okay, more on Benton Harbor. Ken and I talked about some of the things, and it's funny. We have a mutual friend, Tom Ives,
yes,
who owned Three Pillars Record Shop there in the Benton Harbor Arts District. Was he ever able to have good music there? I mean, his music selection was just very. No, I'm just kidding. No, I love his music selection because it was all classic rock. It's the good stuff that I like.
Was very specific in the kind of music he wanted to sell. If you're going to bring in classical music or the collection of your grandmother from 1940, you're not going to find a whole.
Well, I mean, I couldn't find the Pet Shop Boys or Oingo Boingo or any of that stuff. So Tom, was it last year, made the decision to retire?
Correct. So he sold the business and
Phase Shifter Records.
Yeah. To walk in the store, it has the same look and feel and appearance, but the new owner, Joe Davis, he has a broader view of what should be offered in the way of music. So he's got a larger jazz section, a larger classical, a larger Broadway section, and some of the newer music that the young people like,
Yeah. No, he has a great selection. I think that what he's curating is a compliment to what Tom was able to bring forward, and then some.
Correct.
And then some. So it's really good. But that is in the Arts District. What are some of the other standouts in the Arts District that you?
Well, we've got first-class restaurants. Mason Jar Cafe, everybody's favorite.
Yes.
Houndstooth Restaurant on the other side of Maine, which is a destination.
Love that as well.
Great fine dining, but in a very casual, big city feel.
You could be in New York City or in Chicago and be inside there.
And they draw patrons from Chicago regularly. People come to Houndstooth just by reputation.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Just down the street, Animal. Would you still include that part of the Arts District?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
And then non-food venues. The Livery, of course, they've been there now they'll be celebrating their 20th anniversary this year.
20 years?
20 years, 2005.
Wow.
So they've brought great beer and live music into the Arts District, one of the great draws of the neighborhood. Water Street Glass, of course, is, kind of a famous glass studio.
Yeah.
And again, a big city venue that you don't see in very many small communities.
Yeah, that's really cool.
And our Citadel Dance and Music Center. So
and the Citadel, they've been fundraising recently, right?
Correct. So the Citadel has two programs, music instruction and dance instruction. The music instruction happens in the Bramall building, and then the dance instruction happens around the corner in what used to be the Salvation Army originally.
Okay.
And the Citadel is buying that building. So they will have a music home in my building, and then they will own the building where the dance program occurs.
Nice.
It's a nice development.
That's a big presence.
Yes.
In the Arts District. All right, we'll continue this conversation in just a moment with Ken Ankli, Benton Harbor resident, fifth generation Southwest Michigan resident. So we'll talk about that and more in just a moment here on the WSJM Morning Show.
Mostly sunny to start today. We'll see increasing clouds as the day goes on. High temperatures getting up around 48 degrees today. We're going to see rain showers develop late afternoon, early evening hours, and those rain showers will continue tonight. Will drop down to about 35. And tomorrow, temperatures will stay in the 30s. We'll see rain for the first part of the day, mixing with snow in the afternoon. I'm Chief Meteorologist Carrie Peugeot.
The Morning Show with Ken Lundberg on WSJM.
So happy that you're here on a Thursday. It's 7:42. It's the WSJM Morning Show. Good morning. I'm Ken Lundberg. It's still 30 degrees and clear skies out in Benton Harbor and in St. Joseph. The feels like temperature is closer to 24, 25 degrees. It's not bad at all. And again, I mean, shoot, with the weather forecast that Carrie Peugeot just gave us, we're going to get warm today. And so today is going to be a sweater optional day, even though Ken and I have already broken that with we both have sweaters. I was mentioning on the video live stream a moment ago, our mutual friend Tom Ives, at some point he started texting me with messages for you, and probably vice versa from time to time. And so then he decided to delineate between good Ken and bad Ken. Have we decided who the good Ken and who the bad Ken is?
Well, I think you can throw a dart on that one or roll the dice.
Depends on the day.
That's right.
All right, fine. We're talking with Ken Ankli. He is, I'm going to say a number of different things, but today we're asking a lot of Benton Harbor history questions. And some of the, specifically in that arts district, you've talked about how it went through, it's gone through a transformation. I mean, you think about the last 100 years. If somebody had a stop motion camera over what that has been, it's gone from commerce to almost some desolation in some areas, to the beginnings of a revitalization.
Correct.
And the arts district moniker has it seems to have stuck. It
Yes.
seems to have that staying power.
There are those people who come to the area thinking they're going to see something, in the way of arts, and sometimes they're disappointed. They'll come and say, "Well, where's the art?"
Right.
But you have to look under the rocks a little bit, because a lot's going on there that is not apparent to on your first visit.
Yeah.
The music center, for one thing, that's all instructional, so there's no performing going on it, but they're serving 300 students.
Yeah.
And they have been for the last 15 years. Water Street Glass, great program. Again, largely instructional. They do have the retail, but it's experiential art in a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
Richard Hunt Studio, which was one of the original artists attracted to town.
Yes.
For the very beginning of that program. And it evolves. We have some public art down there. We have murals. We have public sculptures.
I
think it's a developing story.
Yeah, I mean, you can't just say art and have art appear.
Correct.
It is a journey, and I'm impressed with how it's developed over time. Like you mentioned, Water Street Glassworks, they just celebrated their 20 years.
Yes.
The Richard Hunt Art Studio has been the anchor.
And Richard Hunt has a new identity and a new future that is just starting in that. Richard Hunt gifted that building to the Krazel.
Yes.
And the Krazel has great plans to, reinvigorate and make that a more dynamic facility.
I also
That's
like
going to be fun.
Yeah, I can't wait to get more detail on that because Krasel. So Richard Hunt, knowing that he was in his in the final chapter of his living life, was making arrangements through his people to make certain that things were cared for, including the satellite studio that was there in the Arts District.
Right.
And I had the wonderful opportunity to go through that studio before it was transferred, and I mean, just the art alone inside that old car place.
Yes.
Amazing.
Yep.
Just amazing.
And unfortunately, it didn't get quite the visibility
No.
that it deserved.
Yeah.
And I think that will change with the Krasel's ownership.
Yeah, that'll be great. But again, thinking about art for art's sake or art for enriching a life, you think about the Citadel, you think about Water Street Glassworks, other plans that other developers have in that area of bringing the instruction, the practice forward is
Sure.
exciting. We were talking about the Thayer building. The story in Moody on the Market that we had a couple of months ago, we broke the story about how the developer there, Clement Construction, is turning the old antique store, the old firehouse,
Yes.
which was never actually a firehouse, apparently.
That
Was it a firehouse?
Apparently not.
The old not firehouse, which was actually two buildings that were roofed over to look into one, which they did a great job of making it look like one building.
Yeah.
So they've got that building, and I think they're turning that into a restaurant and maybe some residences.
Hopefully.
Yeah, and then just across the street in that Thayer building that used to be basically chemical supply,
Yes.
not manufacturer but supply store or
Janitorial.
janitorial supplies. That they're thinking can be turned into some artist areas where they can have their studios, they can sell some of their wares if they choose to, and a whole lot of other different things.
Right.
So-
Multiple tenants.
Yes.
Working in a market type environment,
Yes.
as I understand.
yeah, yeah.
Possibly residential on the second floor.
Residential on the second floor because they've got, I mean, the bones of that building are good.
And it's massive.
Yeah, and it is. It is. And it'll be prettier because they'll take the siding off of it.
The siding, well, the siding dates back to the early 90s.
Okay.
Because we did the very same thing with our building.
Mm-hmm.
We had a brownstone building.
Yeah.
And that was a period of time where the buildings had been removed. And the feeling was that putting a new skin on an old building was the beginning of reinvestment.
Okay.
People would see change. And for a few short years, everybody applauded those skins on those buildings because it was a visible testimony for reinvestment.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't very many years after that we started to get asked, why don't you remove the skin and return it to its original historical brownstone?
Yeah. And that's not a small investment.
No.
How does that happen? What does it look like?
Well,
when
we
you
did
that?
do that for
Yeah.
a portion of our building when we started in 2008 and 9. It removing the sheet metal and the artificial stucco called Drive It. Removing it is not so difficult.
Okay.
But when it's off, you're left with the underlayment to these products, which it made it very difficult to restore the original brick. We ended up having to delaminate the brick and then restore brand new brick on top of the underlayment.
So basically for layman's terms, the wallpaper glue that they used was too sticky.
That's exactly right. A great analogy.
You ever try to take wallpaper off?
Oh yeah.
It's a pain. We're talking with Ken Ankli, Benton Harbor historian. Let's make this part of our Moody on the Market update. Moody on the Market update is brought to you by Insurance Management Service. Call IMS today, your local auto owner's insurance agency in St. Joseph and in Niles. And what we bring you during the Moody on the Market update, interesting people you should know. And Ken Ankli is one of them. And Ken, one of the things that we've written a few stories about is your generosity. And so I'm gonna ask you to talk a little bit about what you did, what you've been doing down in that area. We can maybe start at the Ghost Light. Ghost Light Theater is a building that you used to own. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay.
The Ghost Light Theater was kind of
which is also down in the Arts District, by the way.
It was an auxiliary building
Yeah.
of a printing company that was adjacent to that. And the Cornerstone Alliance ended up owning the property.
Yeah.
and it provided access for delivery trucks to the back of my building. So that's why it was attractive to me at the time. I didn't have any vision for a theater at the time.
Yeah.
I really wanted the access.
You bought the driveway.
Correct.
Okay.
After we sold our business, I acquired the building, or I started to think about the building and what it could be used for.
Yeah.
And I had a friendship with Paul Mao, who is the now director. And I approached him and I said, Paul, what do you think about a black box theater in this building? And he kind of shrugged it off initially. But after thinking about it a little bit, it kind of grew on him, and a plan developed, and they formed a steering committee, and we worked together, and I ended up selling the building to them on favorable terms, and they actually did the renovation.
Okay.
They funded that all themselves.
Yeah, it's nice in there. If you've not been in there or have never experienced a black box theater, it's really cool. I mean, basically the audience is sitting on the stage.
Correct.
And everything else is just is brought to you inside of a big black box.
Yep.
It's great.
Probably 80 to 90 seats in the theater.
Not a bad seat in the house.
They do construct sets for their shows, but they're generally modest sets.
Yes.
And they've had some great shows. Every year it gets better and better.
It does.
They pretty much sell out every show at this point.
And where do they have the orchestra pit? It's like off to the side in that closet.
Yeah, that's a little
there.
closet. I don't think it was ever intended to be an orchestra pit. It does work.
It does work. It's really good. And so at some point, Ghostlight Theater was paying off the favorable loan.
Correct. We sold it to them on a land contract, and after 5 or 6 years, it was apparent that they were going to succeed, and I forgave them the balance.
Yeah, that was incredibly generous of you. And again, we appreciate you supporting the arts and supporting Ghostlight Theater. There are other things that you do. You help out with other buildings in the area.
Well, the Citadel, that's one that I'm pretty proud of, because that was the first redevelopment of our own building back in 2009.
Yeah.
We took a portion of that building and added the 4 loft apartments upstairs.
Yeah.
And on the street level, just coincidentally, early in the project, I connected with Susan Dietrich Reed, and she was looking for a new home for her music program. And we built that facility out specifically for her music program.
Nice.
So
that's great. And now I think you've got there's an art gallery.
We have an art gallery in the entryway, which used to enter into our supply business.
Yes.
It's called the Space in Between. And then that also leads to a new Pilates studio, which is just opened this past fall, Harbor Pilates. So we've got Citadel Music, we've got Phase Shifter Records, Space in Between, and Harbor Pilates as our ground floor tenants.
That's
and
awesome.
Then upstairs we have now 9 loft apartments. So the entire second floor has been redeveloped into residential.
That's nice. Any room for more businesses down below?
There is. Our front office, formerly our sales office, is a space that I'd like to find a tenant for. It's about 1,500 square feet.
Who are you looking for?
Well, I always look for somebody that fits.
Yeah.
They have to complement the neighborhood.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that I would want an attorney in there, or
no, definitely no attorney, please.
I would really like to have some connection to the arts district, some creative element. But you never know.
Okay, that's good. And there's also positive economic activity happening where the Phoenix was. Next door to that, they've got, I think, plans for a cigar bar. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. You okay with that?
That would be 120 Water Street.
Okay.
I guess I want to keep an open mind.
Okay.
I don't know.
People need cigars too. I know they're stinky, but
I'm not opposed to it.
All right. No, that's good. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, we'll continue more on that. That's our Moody on the Market update today. Moody on the Market update is brought to you by Insurance Management Service. Call IMS today, your local auto owner's insurance agency in St. Joseph and Niles. Couple of messages, and then we'll come back and conclude this great interview with, our great guest anyway, Ken Ankli on the WSJM Morning Show.
Hi, everybody. Pat Moody with another episode of Moody on the Move, our way of venturing out into the community to go behind the scenes of great companies and organizations in our region to share with you what they're up to and how they got to where they are. We take it to the remarkable side of.
Let's get on the video live stream here because we've got a couple of messages, but let's start that conversation here about ARS.
So on the corner of 5th and Territorial, across the street from what used to be the Ideal Place, is Anna Russo Sieber's gallery and educational venues.
Yes.
ARS Gallery and Cultural Center. And she hosts shows and exhibits, but she also has a fairly significant educational program directed at the youth of Benton Harbor. And she's been going now for, I think, 10 or 12 years. Pretty interesting.
Yeah, she raises money from local sources, people who want to donate to help enrich the arts education of children.
Correct.
Yeah. And for anyone who doesn't know ARS, yes, you do, because you've seen those orange, I think they were Muhammad Ali silhouettes.
That's right.
Around the whole area. She was instrumental in bringing that here.
Correct. And now her building has the most magnificent mural on it
that is
really
huge and
striking.
It's huge. It's striking. It feels like it was like a blink that it was in. How in the world was that possible?
The artist that she engaged was very talented, and she had a method, and she banged that thing out.
She really did. Yeah. So you think about the murals in the art district. You've got that one. You have the one on your building.
Yep.
I feel like there are others.
There's another beautiful one on the outside of the livery.
The livery, right. That's recent.
The original mural, which is over on Main Street on the Abbenmarsh building.
Okay.
Which is starting to kind of deteriorate, but it's still, as a mural changes, it kind of it's a weathering. It develops a patina. So just like any other.
Speaking of things developing patinas, any thoughts or word hints on what's going to happen with the State Theater?
Well, the state now is owned by the Downtown Development Authority.
Yeah.
So I think if we could turn the calendar ahead 10 years, I would think we might have a theater operating, but it's going to take a number of years for them to.
Okay, I'm impatient.
Do what needs to be done.
I'm impatient. How do we move that up?
Oh, I think you'll get an opportunity to help.
Okay. Uh-oh. Be careful what you ask for. Okay. No, that's great. We're talking with Ken Ankli, Benton Harbor historian, area do-gooder, community cheerleader. I think that's what you wanted to be called. So we'll talk about, we'll wrap this interview up here in just a moment. Thank you so much. On the video live stream, Diane remembers the Rosbach, excuse me,
Rosbach.
From plating days. She said she remembers it from plating days.
Okay.
I don't know if she was involved in plating, but okay. So a lot of good mornings on the video live stream. Back to conclude this interview in just a moment right here on WSJM.
From the Pat Moody Studios, this is WSJM FM Benton Harbor, St. Joseph, a product of Midwest Family Marketing and Media. Proudly serving our community. The Morning Show with Ken Lundberg on WSJM.
Hey, go ahead. We're live on the air.
You know that your boss is the featured artist in.
Is he the featured artist this month?
Between.
Oh.
The exhibit is up, and you can view it. And we will be having a reception for Dave on March 1st. So
that's outstanding.
Put that on your calendar.
I will definitely put it on the calendar. All right. Well, we've got to get to ABC News here. We've had a great time visiting with Ken Ankli from Bramall Company to Ghostlight Theater to Citadel to everything in between. He's got knowledge of all of it. And so thank you for sharing that with us today.
It's a pleasure being here, Ken.
Absolutely. It's 8:00.
From ABC News, I'm Sherry Preston.
All right, and before we let you out of the studio, sorry, we were up against the clock there. The space in between, the address of that is
196 Water Street.
And did I get the name right? The space or a space?
The space.
The
in
space.
between.
The space in between is at what? One more time, the address.
196 Water.
196 Water Street, and the show that's in there right now
Is the artist is Dave Deutsch,
who's our president and general manager here at
There
the
you
radio
go.
station.
And,
I knew that he was going to be in there at some point. I didn't know that he's in there right now.
Yeah, I think of him as like Clark Kent because here he is. He's got his day job here, but he's actually an artist at night.
I know, it's beautiful. The guy can't stop. He doesn't stop. Ken, thank you for joining us today. We appreciate it. Let us know if there's anything we can do.
Pleasure. Thank you.
All right. And thank you for joining us on the video live stream. We'll see you soon.
Here's ABC's Steve Ganyard.
The